Well, hello, it's me, and welcome to my office. I'm James, and I like to bring you regular messages, generally of hope and encouragement from this place on internet. Whether it's Facebook Live you're watching on, or YouTube, in the various channels that I broadcast to, welcome. Remember, you are infinitely precious and unconditionally loved for the gift you already are, right this very moment. You are a gift. And if this season makes you wonder about the gifts around you, remember you're one of them. You are one of the gifts that this season has brought to us. Now, one of the things I'm hearing from a number of my friends, and I've even read some very interesting online kinds of articles and blogs about people not quite feeling Christmassy, whatever Christmassy really means to them or to you. And it seems to me that there are, probably for all of us, obstructions, things that seem to be in the way of us experiencing this season in whatever way it was that we might hope the experience could come to us. Oftentimes we attach a lot of hopes to it, that the tree will be perfect, perhaps stockings hung by the chimney with care. Now, these are all for people who celebrate Christmas. I mean, there are lots of different other holidays. Kwanzaa comes right after Christmas. Hanukkah was recently. There are all these wonderful and beautiful things that we celebrate in this season. But for you, if you are like me, your primary celebration at this time of year is going to be Christmas. And you've attached something to it, probably things you remember, maybe from the better Christmases you might have had. Some folks I know did not have particularly good Christmases in childhood, but as they grew into adulthood, found better experiences of what Christmas is. And others of us have these fond childhood memories of what shaped those things. But today there are lots of things that stand in the way of it. One of perhaps the biggest one that I'll be talking, I'm going to have a second thing this week that I'll be talking about on Thursday, is the loss of people who matter to us. And no matter how many years ago that was, it could have been in the last year, and usually the first Christmas or the first holiday celebration after the death of someone you loved is the hardest. But even 10, 15, 20 years later, Christmas never quite seems the same as it might have once seemed when the person we love to share Christmas with is not there. Because there seems something missing. So on Thursday, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But there are other things in the world that obstruct us from appreciating this season as well. The things that are going on in the Middle East, what's happening in Gaza right now, what's happening in the Ukraine, what's happening in various hotspots in Africa, the threat in Sudan and South Sudan of an upcoming, maybe the largest famine they've ever experienced, which means hungry and dying people, including women and children and those who didn't do anything to cause it whatsoever. There's violence all over and around, and even the ability to talk to our neighbors is obstructed. Simply celebrating Christmas with some folks who don't see the world the same as us becomes a place of great tension, as if any of us have ever seen the world exactly alike. But whether we did or didn't in the past, matters not. It matters that now it just seems like everything has exacerbated the differences so that we cannot seem to find a way forward. So there's this kind of divisiveness that happens in every gathering. And so families are smaller now, oftentimes much more uh, just close family, or maybe you have, instead of a family Christmas, you have a friend's Christmas. Or perhaps you spend Christmas alone, and that's your obstruction, is the sense that all the people you once shared Christmas with, it leaves you feeling alone. Now, I will tell you that for a long time in my life, when I ran upon something that um, obstructed my experience of Christmas, I have this wonderful, highly optimistic way of dealing with things. I don't think I'm quite as bad as perhaps Ted Lasso's wife accused him of being terminally happy or joyful, or I don't remember exactly what the terminology was. Perhaps you will. But I do try to put a positive spin sometimes on some things rather than deal with what's underneath what's spinning for me. And that is what I want to invite you to do with your obstructions this Christmas. The things that make Christmas feel less Christmassy to you. And I don't know what they are. I quite frankly don't want to try to capture them all. And I'm sure even in my brief list before, I missed some of the things that keep you from experiencing it. Maybe there's an impending change in your life that you know is coming up, or a recent change in friendship, or all sorts of things that could be the things that cause consternation and uncertainty in a time that you often think of as a magical experience or have in the past. What I want to encourage you to do is, rather than spiritually bypass any negative feelings and jump ahead to the only positive ones, or imagine that you only have positive ones, even though there are negative ones rising, I want to invite you to pause and listen to whatever the obstruction is that seems to be rising in you. If it's a sadness, if it's an anger, if it's a frustration, if it is being overwhelmed by all the things that seem to be happening that are bad in the world, and they come to us all the time because we have 24-hour access to all the news the world has. If that is sucking the joy out of your Christmas, take a moment and pause to kind of deal with what is swirling inside of you. And perhaps as you deal with what's going on, you realize you need to reach out to a friend to talk to them about what's going on with you. Reach out to a pastor or someone who might be present and listen to you. Reach out to a family member, a trusted family member, or if you're really feeling so overwhelmed, perhaps to a mental health professional or a counselor, a therapist. Those are all appropriate things to do in this time of the year when you start to feel. Now, the hardest thing is, in this time of year, it might be most difficult to get through to the people that you most want to connect with or need to. But don't pretend like your discontent, your concern, your sadness or melancholy, the things that are obstructing you from Christmas, don't pretend like they don't matter, because they're real. They're your way of perceiving what's going on and coming at you in this moment. And oftentimes the greatest war against Christmas, I don't really think there's much one. I don't see one outside in the world. I do see it inside of myself, with my own struggles to let go of all the things I think Christmas is supposed to be, so it can just be what it is. So instead of worrying about who's going to show up myself. And to show up myself means to admit there are things that concern me. There are things that are bothering me. There are things that are obstructing me from feeling fully engaged in this moment. And that in the end is really what keeps us from Christmas, is the things that obstruct us from engaging fully in Christmas as it is, because it's not the Christmas as we wish it were or want it to be. And in the same way, we were surprised, if you're a follower of Jesus, surprised by the birth narrative, a baby born in a backwoods place in an unknown little corner of an oppressed country 2,000 plus years ago. Just how that was a surprise. Perhaps you could be surprised as well if, instead of bypassing the things that stand in the way, if you show up, pay attention to the things that are bringing you down, be aware of them, talk to somebody about them, journal about them, but find a way through them, not around them, because the detour around them is a long detour, and that thing that is obstructing you will remain. But perhaps if you can find a way to look at and deal with whatever it is that's bothering you about Christmas this year, obstructing you from experiencing Christmas this year, if you can actually admit it aloud and face it, it might be a more authentic experience of Christmas for you, regardless of whether it's a happy, happy, joy, joy one or not. As we enter this season, and we're just days away on this podcast that I'm putting out, as we enter into this season, I encourage you to be awake to what's going on inside of you. If you're not feeling Christmassy, really sit down for a moment in the midst of the rush from place to place to ask, what's up? What's up with me? What's going on? And is there a way to deal with what it is in such a way that I will experience Christmas anew? Maybe not the same as when I was 5 or 15 or 50, but I'll experience it anew. So on those notes and with those thoughts, I wish you the very best in this season. And if you're struggling, I encourage you to reach out to someone. And as always, remember, you are infinitely precious and unconditionally loved for the gift you already are. Truly, truly. So to all of you who celebrate Christmas, I wish you a Merry Christmas. And for all of those who celebrate perhaps a different holiday, I wish you a happy holidays. I wish you whatever seems best to you. In the end, I hope it will be a lovely season for you, a lovely season. And until the next time. And is there a way to deal with what it is in such a way that I will experience Christmas anew? Maybe not the same as when I was 5 or 15 or 50, but I'll experience it anew.